Good evening, everybody, and you're most very welcome to the show. I hope you enjoy what happens here over the next hour or so. To find out who our first guest is, let me hand you over to our MC for the evening, the beautiful Fred Cook.
Tommy, our next guest is Mr. Guy Garvey.
Wow. How are you? Very pleased to meet you.
How you doing?
Very well now. Sit down there. How are you?
Good, nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you. What are you up to?
Just finished a record.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just going round promoting it. Just turned 50 last week.
Yeah, you look older.
Thanks, man. Yeah, there you go, yeah.
Yeah. So what was the process of putting the album together in terms of, do you arrive with lyrics to the band and can you explain to me the process of the songwriting and then the song making?
So there's a bunch of us, and it can be any one of us starts a piece of music.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
And that piece of music will be kicked around between us. I'm the only lyricist, but they're all pretty fierce critics. Definitely the thing that I couldn't do that you do is do it on your own.
Yeah.
No. Even when I've released a solo record, which I did once, I was surrounded by friends. Yeah.
Where do you live?
I live in South London. I fell in love with a Londoner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's an actress, in particular a theatre actress.
Oh, okay.
So we did it as an experiment because I never thought I'd leave Manchester. And I love it. I work in Brixton. I've got a writing room in Brixton.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got... and the boys are all over the place. They're all up north, the rest of Elbow, but everyone's got their own studio set up. So actually, I'm just getting new perspectives on the life I've already led for the purposes of song. And we get time, work-wise, to work with stuff individually. And it's working really well. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah. Can you tell me about growing up and where you grew up and...
So, I grew up in North Manchester, in a town called Bury. I have 5 older sisters, one of who is living in Waterford with an Irishman. And they've got my nephew.
You sound as if that was something you had to accept.
No, I was trying to make it sound like it was disgraceful. Our Sam chose here, I know why. Yeah, I've got 5 older sisters, I've got a younger brother. All my sisters do proper jobs. Me and my brother were golden balls by virtue of being different. He's an actor.
Really?
Yeah. I met the band when I was 16. So this is our 10th studio album.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
most of us turned 50 this year, so it's been a long time.
What was the experience like of having 5 older sisters?
Well, amazing, wonderful, noisy, chaotic. Amazing, you know. They all love different music, but they all had music in common.
Yeah.
You had to be fast, you had to be funny, you had to be engaging, or you were run over.
I'm imagining that it must have been great for you emotionally.
Yeah.
You know, in other that you don't hide emotions or that you don't... Because you always struck me as a man who was not afraid to show his heart.
Yeah.
And not afraid to be a bit... Soft is probably the wrong word, but a bit... You know, that the woman in you was able... Do you know what I mean? Wasn't far from the surface or something. You're not like, you know, Oasis.
No. No, we're big softy.
Yeah. So
luckily I found a load of other big softies when I joined the band. But yeah. No, definitely. My sisters are... they're like... they're people who pick people up. They're all counsellors and nurses and teachers, you know. They're all people who look after people. They've all got that between them. My dad was a strong union man. He was high up in his print union, as someone else who enjoyed being of use to other people. And I'd say we've all got that in common.
He must have been so delighted when you were born.
Yeah, yeah, apparently so.
Yeah. And he just called you Guy.
Yeah, yeah, could have
Bloke.
been. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Was there wild estrogen in the house at times when your sisters were teenagers and stuff like that?
Do you know, it only struck me in the first couple of years of my son's life, because I've got a 7-year-old called Jack, named for my dad's big brother. And it only struck me after a couple of years of thinking, how the fuck did they do that? How did they do that? You know, it wasn't a big house, it was a small house.
Yeah.
And he was always fixing a friend's car on the path. And he was a night shift worker.
Yeah.
He was a night shift worker. And it's like, where did he find the time to be under a car? It's like, it was the only space where the children weren't allowed, you know? I think he went under there for a bit of peace.
Hiding under the car.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Wow. Would you say that you were close to your dad?
Yeah, in the end, we had our ups and downs. Yeah, he was a pretty amazing man. And I think I only really summed him up when he died. And he was a fucking great bloke.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, you forgive him the stuff you have to forgive him, and you sum them up. You can only tie a person with a bow, I think, when they're gone. And my dad was a great bloke.
So tell us what your mum was like then.
My mum is
What is?
an amazing, smart, funny, brilliant woman. She's where the music comes from, and the gab and the words. Dad, of course, very, very good with words, very witty. But Mum, if she's walking through a room and there's some music on the radio, she joins in whether she knows it or not. If you start singing something under your breath, she'll grab you and accompany you, whether she's heard it or not, which means you can put words in her mouth if you're fast. So my brother was singing, it was a Chet Baker song, Oh, the Thrill Is Gone. And I can see it in your eyes. My mum was there, your eyes. I can see it in your smile, whatever it is. That's your smile. And then he said, put my face between your thighs. And she went, your thighs. Oh, you dirty little... So, you know, you can satellite delay her.
Yeah.
But she's fearsomely clever. She's very political. She's very community-spirited. I phoned her the other day saying, Mum, I'm going to be 50 in 2 days. And she said, I'm going to be 100 in 12 years. She's smashing.
Yeah.
She's really funny. My son, thank God, has inherited her sense of visual comedy. So the other day at breakfast, our Jack went, Alexa, play the Bee Gees. And it's something about the way he said it. I thought, he's never heard the Bee Gees. He's just heard the name. And Staying Alive came on.
Yeah.
And he got to the vocal and he was already back into his cereal bowl. And I can tell by the way I choose my dad. And he went, oh my God, I wasn't expecting that. And he started laughing his head off, you know. But like, whatever's on the radio, he'll start miming along to it.
Yeah. I don't know if this has anything to do with what we're talking about. You just remind me of a time, the first time I ever heard my son curse. He was 13 years of age, and he asked me, could we go play golf? So I said, OK, sure, whatever. I'm not a golfer. And we were both very, very bad. And then at the 13th hole, he just managed to connect in some fantastic way and ball, and I just heard him say, Jesus fucking Christ.
Straight to the top. Yeah.
Oh,
Foot down.
marvellous. What do you think was the feeling in the north of Manchester then and now about Ireland?
Do you mean in terms of culture?
I just wonder, because we grew up with an inferiority complex about England, and stuff from England was always much cooler. So on the east coast of so I'm 54, and on the east coast of the island when we were growing up, we could see the Tube and we could see Top of the Pops and all the bands. We had some great bands here. We, you know, U2 came out of Ireland, Tin Lizzy.
Yeah.
You know, the Undertones maybe, Stiff Little Fingers, but England had everybody else. And it was almost like we felt that to be English was to be better.
You see,
than to be
that's
Irish.
a very mutual thing. I think I can only speak from my own perspective. So, but no, there was always something cooler about being Irish or Scottish. Actually, it's like the deep division down the country. While I was growing up, was Mrs. Thatcher and her dealings. My father being a unionist. Well, they were in a terrible... If my father fought on a picket line, he didn't want me to know he'd been fighting with coppers because my mother was a policeman before she was married. His older brother, my son's namesake, was a policeman. And he wanted us to grow up respecting the police. So when he was fighting with policemen, he didn't want to know us. He didn't want us to know about it. And that, in a nutshell, is what she did. She turned brother on brother. The division she sowed came very much between the South and the North. So we felt dismissed. Even as a kid, we felt shat on by that woman and by her supporters. Ireland was somewhere exotic. Obviously, there was what was happening in terms of the Troubles and the war. But nevertheless, in terms of culture, it was U2 and it was, you know, it was the Undertones and it was SLF. It was the stuff coming over that was a bit cooler for just by fact that it was exotic because it was from somewhere else. Because it was tough being in the north of England at that point as well.
I've always thought that, I don't know if it's the same with Berry, but I always thought that there was a kind of an almost, not a tough attitude coming out of Manchester, but there was a kind of how would you describe it? That kind of, almost like a chest out thing.
Yeah. I remember Manchester when I was a kid was dirty and dangerous. And everybody who made anything there made it, with their shoulders and their chins out.
So you're talking early 80s, late 70s, early 80s.
Early 80s through to early 90s. An attitude that only softened a little bit with ecstasy.
That's funny, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Men
that are just a few years older than me from Manchester still can't give a compliment to another man. You know?
Yeah.
But my generation smoked a bit more weed, ecstasy for the clubbers. It was all a bit of a beautiful thing when I was 16, 17. The Stone Roses and the Happy Mondays.
Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah.
Seeing the Stone Roses. The Stone Roses, when they were in exile for a certain amount of years, nobody knew where they were. And the world was waiting for them. They turned up in a local studio to Bury called Square One. And Mark, who's with me tonight, the guitarist in Elbow, was delivering pizzas and he delivered one to the Stone Roses. And he came to our rehearsal room the next day and told us we wouldn't believe him because everybody wanted to know where they were.
Yeah.
And then a weird shared memory between me and the bass player is I think I went the following night on his rounds with him. Pete thinks he did. And saw the Stone Roses in the studio through the...
Wow.
Yeah, but that was amazing. That was affirmation of some kind. That was what you're doing isn't a waste of time.
And it was a softer kind of more melodic manhood.
Yeah, well, they were all about love. Second Summer of Love and coming off the back of Acid House as well. I remember going to the last of those illegal raves out in the hills. You know, I remember the first rave I went to was one of the last ones. And we were led by a flaming torchlight into the hills and they'd set up a generator in a wood with lights and it was magic. I remember climbing a hill opposite this scene and listening to some kind of chill-out record, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, the sun's starting to come up. Talked to a guy for an hour and a half, and because of it being dark, and the light source being down there, I never saw his face.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I wrote loads about that. I've kept journals since I was 14, so I've got all of that stuff in real detail. But it was a magic thing to be part of.
What a great memory.
Yeah,
What a great thing to have gone through.
Yeah.
Isn't it? That
it's really important.
do you drink a lot?
Yeah.
And
You?
What's that like?
It's all right.
It's all right, mate.
Nice one, man.
You should try it.
Yeah, nice one.
Because I guess there's the. I don't know why I don't even know why I'm aware of that as a thing.
What, me and drink?
Yeah.
I
why
write
is
about
that?
it a lot.
You write about it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes up all the time. I love my friends. I love a pint with my friends. I love music. I love music, a pint with my friends. So for my 50th, my wife put me on a train with my best friend back to Manchester. And I went and saw my friends and had a pint with my friends. And also, I've had such a good time doing that I've written loads of songs to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a brilliant boozy life.
It really is. That should be the name of the autobiography. What a brilliant boozy life.
What do you, would you enjoy a morning pint?
When I'm on this kind of duty, yes.
It's lovely, isn't it?
It's so great. So yeah, airport, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had a morning pint this morning, but generally speaking, no, I sort of pride myself on not drinking before 4:30. My dad was exactly the same. Too early for me, and then 6 pints.
Yeah. You're so disciplined.
Yes.
There is. I've discovered the joy of a morning pint over the past couple of years, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It has to be before 12.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely gift. Final question. I have to ask you. One of the I cry a lot in the car. It's before I go to cry.
Yeah.
It's safer than doing it at home because I have to answer questions.
Yeah.
After crying at home.
Yeah.
But one of the songs that I love belting out in the car is Grounds for Divorce. And I've always been struck by the Chinese cigarette case.
Right, so...
What's the story behind that?
So in 2006 or 7, when we were making our album, The Cell Machine Kid, I lost a friend. We lost a friend who the album's named for. The idea being you don't get more seldom seen than brown bread. So he was called Brian Glancy. He was a Manchester singer-songwriter and socialist and socialite and ne'er-do-well. And he was this big character that connected everybody to everyone. And the only thing I own of Brian's was this really shit cigarette case from China with Mao on the cover. And it's something you'd pick up and laugh at. It's such a badly made thing. And in the list of all that I own, I give to you, you're not having that. Yeah. So, Brian Glancy's shit Chinese cigarette case. Yeah.
Wow. What's the song you're going to sing for us tonight?
We're going to play one called Good Blood, Mexico City.
Come on. And when might people be able to see you in Ireland?
We're going to be here on the 1st of July at Trinity College, and then hopefully some more dates later in the year and maybe next year as well.
Lovely. And the new album is called?
It's called Audio Vertigo. Audio Vertigo. Yeah.
Guy, thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
For coming on and talking to me. You're a star. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, man. Thank you so much. Yeah.
That's savings.
Welcome back to the second half, everybody. Freddie, who's next?
Well, our next guest is Laura Coleman.
Hello there.
Nice to meet you, Tommy.
How are you, Laura?
Doing good. Lovely to meet you.
Yeah. where are you from?
I'm from Donegal originally, but I live in the West. I live in Clamorris.
All right. And
Yeah.
what's your story?
I'm a death doula.
A death?
Doula. It's an end of life or a death doula. I work with people at the end of life. I'm also a family therapist with the Mayo Roscommon Hospice Foundation.
Okay.
And so that's kind of...
So you'd know Larita then?
I know I work with her.
Yeah. So what do you do?
So what a death doula does is we spend a lot of the time between life and death. So the dying bit, the actual where the person's living and then they're actually going to be dying, we kind of move towards that, helping them through that part.
How?
There's a technique that we use, it's called dignity therapy. And really it's about making meaning and purpose of that person's life. So if I was doing it with you, you're a man of a certain age, we'd be going back through your life and seeing what things were important to you. When did you feel most alive? What things are you proud of? What roles have you played in your life that you felt good about or that you felt was an achievement for you? Personal roles or father, mother.
What do you think gives you the authority to do that? Like, how do you decide on, first of all, the right that you have to do it, and then deciding on the shape of it?
So you'd never be doing it unless the person asked for it or it was offered to them and then they invited you. Most families appreciate a bit of support of somebody that's been doing it. Like I've been doing it over 20 years with hospice. I'm 21 years in October with hospice. So people are really they appreciate a wee bit of support at that time of their lives near the end.
And what kind of things bother people?
I've never met anybody who said they didn't work enough. They all complain about, every person I've ever sat with at the end of their life always complain about having worked too much and spent less time with their family. They wish they'd spent more time with their family, wish they'd done more things that they enjoyed, wish they lived the life they wanted to live instead of the life other people expected them to live. You know, that kind of thing.
How did you get into that type of work?
You know, when your personal life and your work life collides, that's kind of what happened. When I was 29, I was diagnosed with cancer myself. And I was carrying my third child. When she was a month old, she was at home with her father and a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and I was here in Dublin in the Mater Hospital having treatment, and it was a long, drawn-out, long few years, and it was tough going. But I always said that if I got through it and if I got the 10 years I was bargaining for, that I'd help other people in a similar situation if I could. And that's what got me into it.
What happens when somebody isn't ready to die?
It's very tough when you're working with children. At the minute in Mayo and Roscommon, we have 90 families with children who have life-limiting illnesses. 90 in 2 counties. And there is one children's hospice in Ireland that's Laura Lynn, fabulous setup, but only one. In Northern Ireland, they have 2 for 6 counties, one in Derry and one in Newton Abbey. And so at the minute, that's what we're doing. The work that we're doing is we're fundraising for a children's hospice in the west of Ireland.
So when I asked about people who aren't ready to die, the first thing that came into your mind was children.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking. It's really, really tough work, working with families who are going to lose their child. When the child is given an end-of-life diagnosis, what I try and do is I do a lot of play therapy with them to work through it. Some kids know way before the parents are ready to talk about it. They know that this isn't going to come out well.
You've been around a lot of people crying.
Yep, yeah. Death doulas, we say, your sensitivity, I cry a lot myself, your sensitivity is a death doula superpower. You have to, if you get to a stage where you don't feel it, you shouldn't be doing the job anymore. It's time to move on from that job.
So you cry a lot at these things?
Of course. If I'm going to a house and there's an 8-year-old, I had one little boy and his mother was end of life and he was going making his first communion. She was definitely not going to be there for his first communion. So myself and some of the other palliative staff, the team that work in the hospital, we organised the priest and got the suit, and the child came in and we made the first communion and did a cake and did a little bit of a party in his mother's hospital room. This was before we had a hospice. Yeah. And I was trying to sell him on the idea that you're going to have 2 first communions. You'll get money now and you'll get money again. And then we laminated the photograph that he had with his mummy and he put it in his pocket for his real first communion. Give me a second. It's hard when you know them. But he did good. They're doing grand. And I go back then and follow up afterwards when they're coming out the other side, the grief then.
Yeah. Why are you able to do this work?
My sister died at 42 and left 5 kids. And I promised myself and her that if I could help anybody who's in that situation, there's not a lot of people doing it, although there are over 100 death doulas in Ireland practicing death doulas.
Yeah. Like, what do they teach you on the doula
club,
course? Yeah.
So I have a degree in psychology and I've been a psychotherapist for over 20 years. So I know how to be with people when things are going tough, when things are rough. Like, I know how to do that. But there's a skill set that you use it's really person-centred. So the skills I'd use with this house, completely different skill set I'd use in the next house. And what it is it's making you as prepared for your death as you possibly can be. I had a man one time, he had 3 children that he had been estranged from for years and years. He was an Englishman living here, lovely man. And when it came to the end of life, and I was doing a bit of work with him, the bit of doula work, what are you most proud of? When did you feel most alive in your life? Those are lovely sort of open-ended questions that they go back through their life and kind of make a record of. And it's a lovely thing to have. I say to them, imagine it's like you're looking at an old photo album and go back until you see a memory that makes you stop for a second. And then tell me about that. Things that you think were important in your life or things that are worth remembering for your family to remember.
But why do you ask them questions?
Because they have something then to leave. So I'll give you an example. I have a woman at the minute who's writing letters to her 3-year-old son, and she has cards written for him up until his 30th birthday. That's death doula work. She has little voice notes left from when he's starting school. All little things that weren't available back then, or we didn't even imagine were a thing back then, that we could.
I think of all the people, of the thousands and millions of people who have died.
Yeah.
And they've had nothing like that in their lives.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. That's incredible, and it's kind of curious and interesting that the child is only 3 and the mother's writing cards up until they're 30 and leaving notes and stuff like that. It's not essential, though.
Absolutely not essential. But I've seen the benefits. When I'm doing the bereavement work after, it makes it so much easier for them when they have a sort of little written document. It's a small piece of work, but a little written document that are hear the voice of their parent or their husband or their wife or their child, that they have something to remember them by that's there, that was done out of love for the people they were leaving behind.
Do you sometimes talk to people who feel as if they've made a mess of their lives?
Oh, yeah. And I say, yeah, well, there's time yet. What can we do? If you actually... Now, that man I started telling you about that had 3 kids that he was estranged from, he said they won't come. And I said, well, if we don't contact them, they definitely won't come. And if we contact them and they don't come, you've tried. You've at least reached out. So that was my job. I contacted them, made the phone calls. One of the girls was actually expecting a baby, and the 2 girls were there 2 days later, and they got to spend the last couple of hours. Now, it was tough, and there was a lot of work that I had to do with them before they even went in, just helping them to kind of prepare for this man that they hadn't seen for years, and now he's at the end of his life and wanting to reconnect. It's a big ask. But the son came the following day. The son arrived on the Friday. They were great people to do it, and they did. They wanted it, and they did.
And did they have some kind of resolution?
Well, they did, of course. He died with a daughter on each side of his bed that he hadn't seen for 15 years. John, that's good work. That's healing work. Those girls can go away and say, yeah, you mightn't have been a great man for 15 years, but they made a reconnection with him at the end. And wasn't that lovely for them, I think. There's a woman that and her family will know who I'm talking about. She was a very glamorous lady altogether. It's just a funny story. I always think that people think that you lose your sense of humour when you're told you're going to die.
Yeah.
And at your end of life, you lose your personality, your sense of humour. Of course you don't. If you were sitting outside some of the rooms that I'm in talking to people who are at the end of life, you'd be thinking, what is going on in there? The crack just be 90. But this woman, and we were preparing. It's a lovely thing to be able to prepare your own funeral. If you're into that, if you want to do that, it's very empowering. And so so we were doing that, and she was picking the hymns and who was going to do this and who was going to do the reading and who was going to She was a very, very glamorous lady. Even her pyjamas. She looked glamorous in her pyjamas. So she was lovely. And she'd have the makeup done every day. She was just, I loved going into her. We'd sit up in the bed like two young ones having the crack, but it was lovely. But anyway, we had everything almost organised, and I was like, so, what else have we to do now? And she said, I think we've nearly done that. And they said, what I'll wear, she said. I have to sort out what I'll wear. She had, I'm not joking, a full wall of mirrors of fancy clothes. She had lovely clothes, lovely, lovely bits. She said, I worked for all that. That's my savings, my investments for all these clothes. So she told me about a blue suit that she'd wore to her nephew's wedding the year before. So I've gone through all these lovely clothes and found the blue suit anyway. Got the suit out, and I said, that's lovely. I'll put it at the end, and I'll tell Brenda on the way down where it is. Yeah. And she said, do. And she said, I was sliding over the mirror again, and she said, you're not going to, I need a second one. And I'm like, what? And she said, I need another outfit. And I was like, I was just looking at her going like, what? And she said, well, I'm not going to wear the same outfit to the wake as I do to the funeral. And she, the same girl, I'm not even joking, she would have. If she got away with it, she would have. Yeah. But she was such crack.
And tell me this now, did she wear knickers and a bra?
Oh, she did, of course. That lady would not have went out with, I'd say she wore her best shoes too. She wore her best shoes too, yeah. She had great fun with her. She was a lovely, lovely lady. And was...
To go to hell in a thong.
She was ready to go. She was ready to go. She definitely was ready to go.
Up to St. Peter with suspenders.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I don't know, same girl. I wouldn't have put it, you know.
Yeah.
She just loved this now if she heard us chatting about her. She'd have a great crack.
How do children talk about their own death?
Children play it out. They play out their death quite often. They know way more. So what happens is, same as when you're talking to anybody who's at the end of life, we ask, you know, so what do you think is happening? What do you think's happening now? And then instead of me telling you what's going on, you're telling me what you know to be the truth. And so children will often say, my body isn't working anymore. My body doesn't work anymore, and the doctors are trying to fix it, and all this medicine is making them sicker or making them better or getting sick before they get better. And generally when it's end of life, the child has a good idea. I often say to it, like, if you lose your wife, you're a widower. And if you lose your husband, you're a widow. If you lose your parents, you're an orphan. There isn't even a word in the English language to describe a person who loses their child. It's so unnatural that...
They're broken.
Yeah. For children, parents might like for them to think about heaven, that's grand. But often I've seen, when I've been with people at the end of life, children especially, that they'll see grandparents, it's called death visions, that they'll see grandparents, or they'll have pets that have died, and they'll actually believe that they're there, there'll be vision in them. It happens a lot. Like it happens so much that we tell people in advance, we tell the family in advance, this could well happen, because it happens that often.
A death vision?
Yeah, where they'll either see their mother or their grandmother, or like I had a man only this week, and he was petting the dog. Petting his dog like that.
What do you think is happening there?
I think they're just, the veil between life and death has thinned very, very close. They're getting ready to pass over to wherever it is. Sure, none of us really know. Nobody ever comes back to tell you it's right. So, and I think they're able to make that connection if there's something else there. If it's an energy that they're connecting with, like that physical energy that doesn't die. If that's what it is. But you'll often see the person reaching out towards the corner of the room, or yeah, it's very common.
And they see something?
They'll see their grandfather or their mother, or they're in the corner of the room. Yeah, it's very common.
But, and you think it's because the veil between life and death is somehow...
I see it so often.
There's no rational explanation for that?
Not at all. There's none. But when you see it again and again and again in death rooms, in death beds, you see it all the time. There has to be something to it. It just happens too often, way too often.
I remember a friend of mine telling me when my mother died, he sent me a text and he said, it'll blow your head wide open. And he was talking about those 3 or 4 days around the funeral where somehow your consciousness expands a little bit. What do you think happens to the consciousness of the people that are dying in the days coming up to their death?
I think what they're doing is, and that's what we could try and help a person to do, is to let go of the body. If the body is not going to work anymore, like to let it go. Like we've had in the death doula training too, they give you lots of examples of near-death situations where people actually saw something and went towards the light, and I'm hoping it's like that. It'll be, I could do that. I could do that, going to the light and, letting go of the body. But I think when the person, if you've experienced death yourself, there's an energy around, especially in Ireland, the way we do wakes, there's an energy around it. There's a reverence and a kind of like I remember one of my father's things where always when somebody died was open the window to let the soul go, to let the soul out of the body. Old Irish traditions, covering mirrors. Like back in the day, sure, we used to bring people in to Keane at funerals. They were hired almost into Keane at funerals. So we have a big death tradition in Ireland. Have you thought about your death, Tommy?
Yeah, I started to think about it recently, and the thing that has come into my mind is what will I leave behind?
Yeah.
And that I often find myself sitting in the sitting room and go, okay, there'll be a day when I won't be here, but all the others will be.
Yeah.
And I'll just be gone. And what will I have left, and what memories will I have left them, and what practical things will I have left them? And I'm thinking about that, and then you start thinking about, okay, well, why not put some effort into good things rather than just, because most of us are just living all the time, and we're grabbing this, grabbing that, and surviving and getting on and moving. But to actually think about, okay, what will be left behind me when I go?
Yeah. What imprint will you leave?
Pardon?
What imprint will you have left?
Yeah, I mean, you can't always control that.
No, you cannot. Life dictates a lot of it. But you know what I think, Tommy? Like if I asked you how much money you had, would you tell me? No, but if you asked anybody how much money they had, they'd have a fair idea. We know how much money we have. We don't know how much time we have. Yeah, and it's time we all start looking at what's going to be your legacy. What are you planning to leave behind? How would you like to be remembered? What you said when I asked you, have you thought about your death? That's what I do in dignity therapy. I help you to figure that out. I'll give you a session someday.
Yeah.
No bother.
Okay. Laura, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for coming
nice
on to
talking
the
to
show.
you, Tommy. Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Let's leave this.
Welcome back to the third half, everybody. Freddie, who's next?
Tommy, our next guest is Moncon McGann.
How are you?
Good. Yeah.
Now,
That's to Eshkin. Nice to see you.
great to see you, fella. Can I ask you a serious question? Are you well?
That's a very serious question. Yeah, part of me is amazing. Like, my mind and my brain and my body is better than ever, to be fair. I think we all have little shadows and ghosts going on in the background. And it's just a time of such change in the world. So I have both of those things. I've all these, these causes of concern in the world or in my own immediate family. And then just seeing everything else flourishing and flowing and going. So, yeah, overall, I've probably never been more excited by the state of the world. And I'm someone who was kind of excited with things.
Excited by the state of the world?
Yeah. And so that's why I'm saying, when you're well, are you well? Because clearly we're thinking of Palestine, we're thinking of Ukraine. But I see this world. So, I had this, idea a few years ago that could we ever reconnect to culture or who we are, the land in Ireland?
Yeah.
And I thought it was a pioneering thought. And in the meantime, I just see so many people in Ireland doing that. And I never would have thought it would happen. I'm a product of the 1970s. And we were dead. I am dead inside. Genuinely, And I see all these young people in their 20s and 30s. I mean, again, I'm biased. I see the people that are connecting to me or that are in my sphere who just seem to be reaching out and feeling things about their body, about the land. And I never thought. And for a while, I just thought, okay, I can just look at Ireland,
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing it's happening all over the world. This is the wildest thing. I'm having these native elders in Australia, in Canada, in the States, reaching out to me and saying, we feel something and we feel something happening in Ireland.
So I have to be entirely honest,
Go on.
Manchon, is that somebody had said to me that you weren't well.
Aha. Yeah.
And that what they said to me, oh, Manchon isn't well, but he's not talking about it. He's keeping it to himself. And so when I saw you,
Yeah.
that's what came into my mind.
Yeah. So, and that's what I'm saying about the shadow side. So, like, genuinely, so I have prostate cancer at the moment, but that is making me feel more alive than ever. So what should one do? Because I have something called prostate, should I say I'm weak and I'm unwell when I've never felt stronger? You know?
What sort of dosages of stuff are you on in order to mind yourself? Or are you trying to do it? Somebody also told me that you were trying to cure yourself with vegetables. Is there truth in that?
You wouldn't believe the amount of... No, I am doing the orthodox way, the
Okay.
conventional way, but I'm doing everything else too. But you wouldn't believe the amount of alternative options I've been offered, like, and very eagerly by people, you know. And you have to... So the first start... So, you know, I fell in love with this movie star 20 years ago down in South America, but she was a Hollywood movie star. She was in like Nightmare on Elm Street 3. She was a D-list, E-list, whatever. I met her for the first time in 30 Cancer in LA in September. And she puts me on, she says, you've got to do this, a turpentine. You know, like terps, if you're really in Skid Row, you drink turpentine oil, which just burns your insides in, rots your teeth. So she's got to do it. And she was the first person. And I just thought, okay, it's really kind of her. She wants to give me a cure. But then I didn't know. Then someone else said, no, you've got to do this parasite for that dogs take against worms, and this will cure you. And then someone else was saying that you can get arsenic if you eat enough apricot stones. And then someone else was saying, just recently, just last week, cayenne pepper, and like it burns the tongue. You have to have 18 drops, like explode the mouth off you. So I've been offered loads of those, and in fact, I'm taking a load of reishi and different chaga and different medicinal mushrooms, and taking, you wouldn't believe the amount of things I'm taking. Kogi rice, some sort of fermented rice, taking loads. I'm taking herbs that the Canadian elders are giving me. I'm taking herbs that the Irish herbalists are giving me. Taking Chinese medical herbs. But I am doing the convention.
But you're also going to the doctor.
Yeah. But it's not. I don't feel at all sick. Like, I genuinely feel healthier and more focused.
Was it a shock to learn that you got it?
No, not at all. I know it's meant to be. Oh, you're suddenly meant to be aware of your... But like, my problem has been like focused on life on this world. You know, I just love that other world so much. So no, there was no sense of shock, I have to say. Yeah, it's been easy in that way.
When you say you love that other world, what do you mean?
I just love the world beyond. I find it hard to believe the real world, and to believe in the real world, to believe in reality. But that existence beyond is just, I'm so often there. I'm so often in that, and so.
Why are you so attracted to it?
I just think there's people who are incarnated in the world, ready to be in this world and to focus on their body and to doing all the things. And I just wasn't one of those people. I was one of those people who's probably always had one foot in the other world. And so that's why I think that I always was connected with herbs and plants and trees and nature, because I think nature has one foot in the other world as well, you know.
So do you think or do you feel that there's another world?
I know there is, yeah. But not a world, just other realities, yeah, other realms, yeah.
Can you describe any of them to me?
I try, but first, that was and it still is the norm. You know, every one of your ancestors going back believed there were other realities. Going back as far as we know, it just seems that the DNA comes encoded with this sense that there are bigger worlds. Yeah. And but anyway, to answer what it feels like for me, it's just more expansive. Like, it'd be harder for me to describe what this reality is so thin, so tawdry. The fact that at night you're gone, you go to sleep, you've left this reality. The fact that if you do enough breathing or holotropic breath work or take a drug, you've left this world. Like, this world, take 2 pints and you already feel this world sliding away. Like, it's our grip on reality, it's paper thin. And
yeah.
I mean, we can really, we delve deep into it, but I think it's much easier to, all those other mushy beyond realms, I think it'd be easier for me to describe those, and most people, because I think they feel them when they're drunk, when they're sleeping, when they're dancing.
Do you think there might be people watching who will go, he's just running away from the cancer thing. He's just off in Tiernan because he doesn't want to be in the doctor's surgery.
Maybe, yeah. But it's just so far from my truth. I haven't had one ounce of fear about the cancer thing. So all I can, an outsider could easily say I'm running away from things, but yeah, all I can talk about is from my own perspective.
Yeah.
And I know that's an oddball perspective because I've been on this world long enough to realise I'm not necessarily chiming with everyone, you know?
So, okay, so you say you mightn't be chiming with everybody,
Yeah.
but you're certainly drawing people towards you.
Yeah, and it does seem that more and more people are interested, switching on and opening up to this type of thinking, in the last while. And if we do, everything is thrown off balance. Like at the moment, for the last few centuries, we've been biddable serfs, biddable servants, and wanting to give our power away. That's all Christianity was. There'll always be someone who'll step in and take your power if you want to give it away. And that's who me, throughout the 70s and 80s when I did buy into the system, and all the people before me, we gave away our power. And then something amazing happened at the beginning of the 20th century, you know, where you had these ridiculous idealists, these Republican revolutionaries decided, no, just like Gandhi, but like Ireland, we're going to take on the master. It's like the ultimate, taekwondo or tai chi move. I know he's got he's got a war chest, he's got tanks, but like I'm in my essence, I'm in my energy. It can't hurt me.
But why? I mean, why even bother to try and describe it sociologically? Do you know what I mean? Because you're putting words on there. Oh, in the 70s I was this, or in the 100 years ago there was this, but that's all just typing.
Yeah.
But it's not. You're talking about an experience that is kind of languageless.
Yeah, but
and
otherwise,
unexplainable. And
I know, but otherwise it's pointless because otherwise it's too airy-fairy. Like we need to somehow root it in metaphors or in ways of describing it, because otherwise it's just someone at the end of a yoga circle spouting on, which is exactly what I sound like I'm doing.
no, you don't. You don't.
But and again, I would have shut the hell up. Like I used to be on Jerry Ryan in the 90s, and I used to be on Tubridy and Jerry Ryan, and Tubridy had no time for it, he just couldn't deal with it. Jerry was so open. But now it's mainstream, and I'm just thinking it's becoming mainstream. What's going to happen in 10 years' time? You know, if people are tuning into this and tuning in, like we didn't care about the state of how animal welfare. As long as we could have our beef, it didn't matter. We didn't really care what we were doing to rivers.
Yeah.
And now the mass consciousness cares about what they're doing to the rivers. They care about how the animal's getting on the feedlot. And you could still say maybe it's still the majority don't care, but I think everyone would agree that every year that shift seems to be getting bigger.
You're bamboozling me with words.
Sorry.
I'm bamboozled.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
I do.
It's like trying to explain something that you can only sense.
Yeah.
And
Well, I tell you what. I'll
yeah.
tell you what. So I was in Canada on tour in Edmonton, up in Edmonton, Alberta. And I was just doing my show about the stick I do about the Irish language and the landscape. And I hear at the end that someone has come, and there's these three Cree elders, three Native American elders from the Cree tribe, Lewis Cardinal, Jerry Saddleback, Joanne Saddleback, and Lana Whiskey Jack. And they arrive and they say, they want to give me this ceremonial robe, this top. And they say, we hear what's happening in Ireland. Like, these are three people who've got out in a freezing cold day in Edmonton to come down, give me this robe for the people of Ireland. And like, there's nothing more tangible than that. Now, they're doing that for copious amounts of waffly New Age speak that we don't need to get into. And they didn't explain. They didn't try and do what I did. They just gave me this. And I said, no, first, I'm not worthy. We're not worthy. I'm like, well, what we're, because they sort of said, what Ireland is doing, what you're doing. I said, I'm doing nothing. I know nothing. And they said, you've got to get over yourself. Like, that's bullshit, they said. It's happening in Ireland now. You need to wake up and realise you need to go back to Ireland and you need to continue the work that's happening there. And I thought that was it until last March I go to Aboriginal Australia and the exact same thing happens. And I admit, I'm changing my thoughts about this. So when I give a talk now, I get all these people coming, wanting to know how to connect to the land, how to connect to their language, how to connect to ancestors. And again, was one question. Was a question I asked one of these Cree elders, Lewis Cardinal. I said, like, when I go out in the land, sometimes I'm not feeling it. We don't know what the rituals were. He said, you just need to go out there and sit on the land until the land starts speaking to you. And I said, yeah, but that my 1970s mind is going to kick in, my egotism, my narcissism, as I'm going to come out with bullshit. Yeah, and they said, you've got to allow the bullshit. This is like you're a society that's going through its adolescence. You had great wisdom, you forgot it because of the famine, because of Britain, because of starvation, because of economic 150 years of economic poverty. You need to go back, and you're going to make mistakes first. But you need to go back into the public realm.
Yes.
And say those, and have the mistakes laughed at. And be open to, when you hit on something, a ritual or a word or an energy or movement that has resonance, everyone is going to chime to it.
Yeah.
It's so subtle and so hard to see. It'll be very clear in 100 years' time. But for the moment, all I get to see is my inbox. I get to see these young people, women and men, contact me saying, I'm feeling something big. I'm feeling something in the world. And maybe there was always a marginal stream, and maybe I'm just the person they direct to.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. I don't think so, you know?
Do you ever wonder about thing of that? What will I leave behind?
I do. And I did not know that these books and these whatever podcasts and TV I do about the Irish language and Irish mythology was going to have such an impact. And I love that as a little legacy. I think that'll have been lit a switch for people, and people, again, will find way more expressive, evocative ways of talking about our heritage, our land, our mythology. And then this new step that has said, only come to me 2 years ago, these native elders saying, wait there's a way we can combine. Because the only way this world is going to come together is if all humans, if we realise we're not. That ridiculous thing that my great-grandfather or my great-granduncle and my granny fought for, this concept of nationalism, it was right at the time, but it was such limited thinking. And the only way we're going to survive if we realise we're one on this planet. And everything I'm saying today is all from my own very limited thinking. Within 10 years, my mind will have expanded, and I'll have realised just how limited it is.
Do you sing?
To myself, I sing, yeah, but I don't sing publicly. Yeah.
When you sing to yourself, what do you sing?
I sing sounds. I sing sounds to make me happy. When I went to Australia, I made sure I had like traditional Irish songs, just because singing is really important among Aboriginal people, and it's a gift, you know.
Can you give me a blast of something that you might sing to yourself?
Yeah. Mo vanachtam chrí da huid hir stud sleit a chammer givino. Stud húil te húrk húil dói féile a chammer givino. Na rachan jalaste Heil te chrévachte, want te ledeste glaunte mal, o sjoed me gried, sjoedle chele, a chammere givino.
Come on. Stay well.
Thank you, Tommy.
So, stay well, and I hope that our bother clears up.
Appreciate it. Míle buíochas, Cara. Good.
Thank you so much for watching tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And to play us out, we have Guy Garvey and Mark Potter from Elbow performing Good Blood, Mexico City, from their brand new album, Audio Vertigo.
Marigold, this is a day for big decisions, you know. Follow your lodestar, starry eyes, smoky eyes, urgent ties. This is the surge of the good blood rising. If we're coming, I'm coming. If we're running, then we're running tonight. Know to go to Mexico City, where the sun goes down, the night explodes in their eyes. This is the surge of the good blood rising. Marigold, this is a day for big decisions, you know. Follow your lone star, starry-eyed, smoky eyes, urgent eyes. This is the surge of the good blood rising. If you're running, I'm coming. If we're going, then we're going tonight. You know, to go to Mexico City. When the sun goes down, the night explodes in their eyes. This is the surge, this is the surge. If you're running, I'm coming. If we're going tonight. You know, to go to Mexico City. When the sun goes down, the night explodes in their eyes. Good blood rising. Good blood rising. Good blood rising. Good blood rising. I killed it.
If you have been affected by issues raised in tonight's Tommy Tiernan show, please stay with us for the website address to access help coming up in just a few seconds' time.
夜空に輝く星たち私たちの胸にあふれる夢も希望もすべてこの星に託して星に願いを星に願いを叶えてほしい叶えてほしい夢は空が青くて太陽が輝いてる足音が響く街角 Yeah みんな元気で笑顔が広がってるこの一瞬輝かしい未来への一歩を踏み出そう夢の扉を開いて進もう空が青くて太陽が輝いてる足音が響く街角 Yeah みんな元気で笑顔が広がってるこの一瞬輝かしい未来